Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. कार्पण्यदोषो पहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म सम्मूढचेताः यश्रेयस्या निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविर्मयेति वेदस्य मा आनिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्ततामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु मामवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पक्षेमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गै तुष्टुवाग्वं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृतश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिप्रीष्टं गिरिरिव ऊर्ध्व पवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वामृतमस्मि रविनग्वं सवर्सचं सुमेध अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Narayan, everyone. Okay, so I think we are on Shloka 14, right? We'll start from there. So we'll need someone to quickly summarize the last class. Who wants to go for the summary? Nobody has gone through the last class, huh? Someone other than Kavita. Can't have Kavita doing all of the stuff, huh? There are other people in the class too. Okay, Kavita, go ahead.
Last class we started from Shloka 8, which is the Lord explaining what a devotee has to do to attain him. So it goes from the subtle to the gross. The subtlest is the fixing the mind and intellect to the God. The intellect need to rest on him. Mind will be in the Lord. So mind is a contemplative faculty, and when the mind contemplate on the God, then only it keeps on expanding. So the expansion never diminishes. And also the intellect is the determinative faculty. So when we develop the conviction that the goal of a human life is to attain the Lord, then it can rest on the God. And then if it is not possible, the next step is Abhyasa Yoga, which is the practice of bringing the mind again and again to the God. So we have to be very aware of it. So when the mind just goes here and there, we have to be aware of it and to bring it back to the God again and again. And knowing that the God is the omniscient and omnipresent and omnipotent really helps in practicing that. And if that is also not possible, then the third step is to do performance of actions to him. So we have to be nimit to perform all the actions. We have to give the sense of give up the sense of doership for that, and do all the action as a dedication for him. And if we unable to do that, then the fourth step is to renounce all the result of all the actions to him. So that way we can attain the God. So, but there is a precondition for it. And first of all, we have to have that yama and niyama in place. And also, the mind and intellect of a person need to be completely controlled and disciplined while performing the duties. And then we can renounce that results to him. So the shloka, I think it is Shloka 12 explains the disciplines, practice, knowledge, meditation, and then renunciation of outcome of action. So first is the practice. It is the ritual without the spiritual substance. It is just the puja, or namja, puja, all those things, just doing as a ritual. So when the knowledge comes in that, then the ritual becomes spiritual. And then comes the meditation, which is superior to knowledge. So meditation can become restless if the mind is restless. So for the restful mind, we need to renounce the outcome of the action. So the renouncing the outcome of the action will become superior to meditation. Only when we can do that, then only the mind can be calm, then only that proper meditation can be possible. So
that's where we had ended. We had just started 13 and 14. So thank you so much, Kavita. That was very well summarized. I think in Shloka 12, finally, what we have been led to understand is the goal ultimately is tyag, not accumulation. The goal is tyag. Tyag of what? Renunciation of what? Renunciation of all attachment to results. Renunciation of all desires other than the desire to attain the Lord, right? So those desires have to be led away. And this basically, there are 4 things that have been talked about. So he says that practice is important, right? It is important. But practice without knowledge is of no use. So you have to have knowledge as to like why we are doing something, correct? So if you're doing puja, if you're doing nam jap, you can't just do things without understanding what is the end goal. Why are we doing it? What does it represent? That's very, very important. Otherwise, it just becomes empty and devoid of any meaning. So knowledge is superior to practice that way. But then just having knowledge is not good enough. Dhyan is important. Dhyan or meditation. And what does dhyan and meditation means? It means thinking about those principles continuously. I'll talk to you after the class. Okay?
Doesn't matter.
I'll talk to you after the class. Don't disturb the class, please. Okay? You can sit down here if you want to attend the class. So meditation means thinking about those principles, the knowledge on how it can become a part of our daily life, right? That is very, very important. Without trying to get the knowledge in your daily life, without it impacting your behavior, and if it does not change your behavior, then that knowledge is useless, right? So So that is what is meant by meditation. Meditation doesn't really mean just sitting in one place and doing meditation. The meditation being referred to here is assimilation of the knowledge on a daily basis. That is the meditation being referred to here. But then practice of that knowledge through this nididhyasan and meditation will constantly get disrupted if we do not renounce our desires, if we don't renounce the attachment to the end goals. And that is why ultimately you have to get with all of this has to lead to renunciation
I think
and vairagya.
the other thing here is any spiritual knowledge, if you meditate upon, if you do enough introspection upon, will lead to the same conclusion, which is renunciation of action. That's the sequence. No matter what you pick up, no matter what you meditate on, if you do deep study and thinking, it will come to the same crux. Renounce the results of your outcome of your actions, and you will find peace. When we can't put that into practice, that is when we go back to knowledge, learn more, do more nididhyasan to come to that state.
Okay. So we'll do 13 and 14. Naina, will you read with me? No, let's do the connection first.
We had done 13 and 14 reading. We had to start with number 3, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we had done it partially.
We're gonna redo it.
No, but we'll redo it because it was only partially done.
Okay.
The Lord now describes the characteristics of a loving devotee. A careful study of these characteristics helps an aspirant in the assessment of progress in the path of yoga of devotion.
Adveshta sarvabhutanam.
Adveshta sarvabhutanam.
Maitra karuna evacha.
Maitra karuna evacha.
Nirmamo nirahankaraha.
Nirmamo nirahankaraha.
Samadukha sukhakshami.
Samadukha sukhakshami.
Samtushta satatam yogi.
Santushtah satatam yogi.
Yatatma dhrida nishchayaha.
Yatatma drudha nishchayaha.
Mayyarpito mano buddhihi.
Mayyarpito mano buddhihi.
Yo madbhakta same priyaha.
Yo madbhakta same priyaha. He now harbors no grudge towards any being, is always friendly and compassionate, is free of possessiveness and ego, is equipoised in pleasure and suffering, is forgiving, ever contented, always intent on yoga, is in full control of his mind, is of firm conviction, with his mind and intellect dedicated to me, such a devotee is dear to me. The characteristics of a devotee who is dear to the Lord. The full import of each of these characteristics must be understood clearly. Number 1, not harboring a grudge. By perceiving or imagining a threat or harm from someone, a man may harbor a grudge against that one. But a devotee is free from such a habit. By constant and vigilant practice, the devotee becomes devoid of any grudge. A loving devotee should be extremely careful to avoid malice or grudge, which vitiates the atmosphere and makes one agitated. It should be remembered that the discipline of devotion thrives only in the peaceful condition of the mind.
So a question, since we've already done this, question, why is a devotee free from grudge?
Because if he's totally he
Because
believes
he
that
denies the results.
results, and he believes that everyone is every entity is the Lord, so he cannot bear a grudge against anybody, right?
Correct. Every VVGP that comes, even though it may threaten, it is either a blessing or a lesson. right? So with that principle firm in mind, there's no question of having any grudge towards anybody because everything is prasad. Everything is his doing. Great.
Point number 2 is friendly. It is the nature of a person to be happy when a friend is happy and unhappy when a friend is unhappy. An extension of this sense of friendliness to all beings makes the devotee unmindful of the misconduct of anyone else. Point number 3, compassionate. The devotee has a compassionate feeling for everyone. If anyone is in distress, the devotee's natural reaction is to somehow remove the distress or to reduce it by sharing it. This is done only under the impulsion of the devotee's own nature and not for any ulterior motive. Free of possessiveness. Sometimes a person.
Have you muted?
No.
So we've done up to here. So are there any questions or comments for the first three? Harituj.
With regard to friendly, the second part says an extension of this is a sense of friendliness to all beings, makes the devotee unmindful of the misconduct of anyone else. But isn't a true friend someone who's your greatest critic?
See, I think those, let's not mix two very different concepts and things, right? Uh, a friend is a person who wishes the best for you.
Hmm.
Do what it takes to wish best for you. We make our world small by choosing who to be friends with. I'll be friends with you, because you and me grew up in the same colony. Or I'll be friends with you because we went to the same school.
Or I will be friends with you because you are constantly benefiting me in some
Correct.
fashion. But if you are going to be if you are doing something that I perceive as being harmful for me,
Or rude.
or you are being rude to me, or you are in my office and a colleague with whom I'm competing for something, then you are no longer a friend.
Or if I
Right?
don't know you, then I will not be friendly to you. Because I don't know who you are. You might take money from me. I'll be suspectful of every interaction that I get into. Right? So the principle here is stop looking for friends and stop judging people as friends and start being friendly.
Moving from doing to being.
Regardless of the misconduct of anyone else, regardless of how they treat you, can you be friendly? Can you be gentle in your touch? Can you be kind in your words? That is the principle. This is not an outward way of looking at who are friends, but an inward way of being
Who you
that
are.
friendliness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah.
Free of possessiveness. Sometimes a person develops a sense of possessiveness in certain worldly objects or even relations. A devotee is free of this sense. To the devotee, an object may be of some utility only for the performance of a duty, but there is no feeling of belonging for the object. Similarly, relations with other human beings are relevant only for the discharge of duty towards them without entertaining any expectations from them.
This is really important because this is extremely subtle and we are trapped in this in a deep way. Right? We free of possessiveness. We can't even move beyond saying, this is not my house, this is Bhagwanji's house. My car, my mother, my father. Wherever we attach the terms my is possessiveness. We go to a hotel for 2 days and we say my room. In 1 second, that hotel room becomes my room. We go to other people's house, stay in their house, they say, oh, put the stuff in my room. So it's so subtle and it is so ingrained and it is so quick for us to attach our identity to object. My clothes. How can you wear my clothes without asking me? Right? These are all statements I'm sure we've made or people have made to us. But every time you make it, just remember, you're not being a devotee. Nothing is yours. Everything is given for a purpose. Your clothes are given for a purpose. And in that purpose of wearing your clothes to be appropriately dressed so you can carry out your duty. That's all that it is. Nothing more, nothing less. And similarly, the same possessiveness enters. And why is it important to be free from possessiveness? Because if we are attached to things, it is a really easy way for us to lose our equanimity. And it is a really easy way to be trapped in sansar because you will want more things. You will start
And also
competing with
because-
things. So my purse, but my purse is not Louis Vuitton. Why? Oh, my purse, but now I am at this level. I should probably buy something else.
Not just that, but also because things in this world are temporary in nature, right? So at some point of time, it is not going to be with you any longer. And at that point of time, there's always going to be anxiety and pain and fear of losing it. First, there is effort to acquire it. And then there is, constant anxiety to maintain it. And then there is the fear of losing it, right? So that also takes you away from your equanimity.
Yeah.
The amount of effort we'll put to, oh, my sari, my this, my that, I have to like keep it properly. I have to maintain it for the rest of my life, So all of those things, right?
So
the more we have, then the more we have to maintain as well and be attached
So
to
there
it.
are two principles to be. I think Vijay, you're trying to say something. I think.
Yeah, just wanted to one thing that is when we talk about possession, our kids, right? Like my son, my daughter. So that's the most painful one everyone would have gone through, essentially. Okay, he is not listening to me. He is not doing this. I have pal post kar bada kiya, ye kiya, wo kiya, all that kind of thing, right? And there's so much of expectation we would have seen from our parents. We would have been repeating the same. That's the I think like most common thing. So they just choose to bond through us, not by us. So essentially, the when we talk about like possessiveness, we can very much correlate with the family.
Oh, 100%. So that's the second part of the shloka, right? The possessiveness we have in human relation is far deeper. Like my parents are now in their late 70s, right? One of the conversations I constantly have with my mother is let go of us. She's like, no, मैं तुम्हें नहीं छोड़ सकती. I cannot leave you. I cannot not worry about you or your brother and this and that. I'm like, Mama, whatever is going to happen will happen. Can you let go of us? आप अपने दिमाग में शांति रखो. That is more important than us. हम लोग हमारी शांति ढूंढ लेंगे. Right? But sorry, I'm speaking Hindi. We will find our peace. That is our journey. And God's there, but you have to let go of us. And that is the hardest thing for her to do. Every time I've had this conversation, she just has a complete tears in her eye. Because she
It's
can't.
a very hard conversation with parents.
But it's a very necessary conversation because this is for their ultimate well-being. I don't want my mother to be reborn. I want her to go and not come back. Right? But then as a son, as a person studying Gita, I should have that conversation with her, right? We should have that conversation with our parents to teach them the right principles. Right? So that same possessiveness that we have in things, we subtly and more aggressively have it with people. And that's what we need to be aware of. These people are not mine. My husband is not mine. My wife is not mine. She's come into my life because she's the fastest way to grade me into becoming a better version.
I'm your Prarath cleansing machine.
Correct. And grading is happening every day. But the more
I make sure of it.
Yeah, she makes sure of it. But the more she grades, the better I'll be. If in that I complain, if in that I start now thinking negative thoughts about her, then I've lost my opportunity. Then go back to square one. It's like that Samp Sidi. Snake is bitten you, go back down. Yeah, Rituj.
I was just thinking when you were sharing about the whole attachment bit, because the thing of less attachment or weaning off slowly would that also apply here? And the concept of weaning off, like in the sense that if you, it's like a medication or something that you're on, and slowly you have to wean off it so you're not dependent on it anymore. Could that apply in cases of family or human relationships in that ways?
It's a good question. I will what Gita says is you're not letting go of an object. You're letting go of your attachment to that object, which means you have to work on the subtlety, on the subtle bhav of your perception of that object rather than the object. Now, how you let go of it, what the Gita says is keep your mind on Bhagwanji. Automatically, the more your mind spends time with Bhagwanji, the less it spends time in samsara. And that honestly is also the 12-point program for Alcoholic Anonymous. Any addiction program, the second or the third point, I don't remember which one, is always find faith. Without that, nothing else will happen. You cannot wean off anything. And that's what the Gita says also.
So the weaning off is not in action, right? Like what Abhinav is saying. It's not in action. It is in your bhav. So depending on a relationship, like for example, Vedant, right? The action doesn't have to change, but when okay, now you have to, there's a very subtle difference between feeling bad कि मैंने ये कहा और उसने नहीं सुना is very different from you teaching the kids what are the right principles and what to do, what not to do, right? So you're not going to suddenly say, okay, now I will stop telling him anything. Let him do what he wants. Okay, that is how I'm letting go. That is you not doing your duty for your child, right? You have to tell the child what needs to be done. But if they say no, you have to sit down and understand rather than taking it on your ego as to like मैंने बोला और उसने नहीं किया. To sit down and have a conversation when you're coming from a space of principle, you can figure out like what's going on. Why are you not doing this? What is in your mind? Right? And address it. Sometimes it may be that they don't understand why you're saying something. They don't appreciate the pros and cons you're trying to present to them because their little minds are not able to grasp what you're trying to say. For them, their ability to make decisions is very short term. They're not able to think long term. And you need to help them develop that faculty. And you have to give them control to take their own decisions, right? All of that comes, that way of being will only come in when we stop possessing them. And that possession is directly linked to what? Ego. Right? मैंने कहा मैं बड़ा हूँ, मैं बड़ी हूँ, he has to listen to me, you are my child, you are living in my house. We've heard all of these statements. And a lot of times, we make these statements to people, to our children, कि जब तक तुम इस घर में हो, तब तक तुम मेरी बात सुनोगे. I mean, I know I've heard of this from my parents, right? And I know, and we've seen it in enough number of movies to know that it is a representation of the generic culture in which we grow up, right? So that is all ego, right? Nothing else. That possessiveness comes from ego. It's about I, me, mine. And if it is I, me, mine, then whatever I want it to do has to get done. Right? That thing cannot have its own mind and do something other than. And a lot of times there is no reason other than ego where we get enflared, right? Okay. And the very next one is free of ego. So let's read that.
Free of ego. Being conscious of some good qualities, power, or ability in oneself gives a feeling of superiority to one over others. It is the prime cause of ego in a person. A devotee is free of such an ego as such qualities, power, or abilities are considered only as equipment for rendering a service to others.
So, ego, I think we've talked a lot about, but this gives you a very clear definition of it. The moment.
Not definition as much as the cause.
Yeah, but it's also a way to identify it. The moment you feel you are better than somebody else, moment you've had that thought, that's ego. The moment you have wronged somebody, blamed them, that is ego, because you think you're better than them. The moment you say, insult someone, ego. All of that is ego. And a devotee is free of this only because they deeply understand that this is all just Bhagwanji's Maya. It's got nothing to do with me. And if a person is upset with me, that also has nothing to do with me. That has got to do with that person and his experience. If a person is outright insulting me, that's nothing to do with me. If they're yelling at me, that's nothing to do with me. It's their vasana, their prarabdha, their experience. Can you stay detached from it? We cannot, because our ego comes in. How can you do this to me?
And then on the other side, if you're feeling insulted because the other person is saying something, then that is on you. Samne wala can say anything and everything, but end of the day, what it creates in you is your own prarabdha as well.
And that
because
is
your own sense. If
and-
you're feeling insulted, then you have to go back and check yourself as to like, why are you feeling insulted? Why are you getting angry? What is upsetting you? Because the other person can do whatever. End of the day, you have to have control over yourself. So it's all an internal journey.
what did you say? When you're feeling upset,
If you're feeling insulted by the other person,
if you're feeling insulted,
or you get
that
angry,
itself is a blessing. Bhagwanji showing you, bhai, look how easily you get insulted. Let's work on this one vasana.
So
Let's
these are
work
all
on this one
gates.
thing.
These are all gates of entry. All of our vasanas, all of our problems, all of the concerns, all of the issues,
That's a good way to say.
they become gateways to our uddhar. If we can understand them, if we can catch on to them, become aware of them, rather than getting, rather than flowing with them. They will all come, and we have two choices. Either we flow with them and then get into the blaming, angry, feeling victimized mode, or we can use each of those as a gate point. Okay, I'm feeling this. Okay, I am this. Okay, this is how I am. Identify. The moment you've identified it, and the moment you've said, yes, I'm feeling it. Now you don't have to say, I shouldn't feel this, or first of all, yeah, you shouldn't blame yourself in that moment. Accept it for what it is. Yes, I'm feeling this. Yes, I'm doing this. And then in that moment, you stop flowing with it. You've just become aware of a particular emotion. And when you've become aware of it, then you are now in control of your actions and thoughts and everything. So that feeling would still go on inside of you. That's okay. But now you're choosing what to do about it. Don't try and suppress it. Don't try and deny it, because then it will only bottle up and fester inside of you, only ready to come out next time. Accepting it, voicing it, writing it, or thinking about what is a better way and understanding why you're feeling this way. That is your gateway into your manan. They are an opportunity every day that we get to get into manan and understand what's going on. And once you understand what is the root cause of causing this, you try and address it next time. Right? So, for example, you guys know I've been talking about it in our classes that I have been trying to deal with anger, right? For like the longest time, last 10 years, that's been one of the key things that I've been working on. And over a period of time, I have improved considerably, I would say. However, but I still burst up. I still get irritated. I still get upset. I still get, and then over last 1 year, what is beginning to become clear is like, okay, what is it? I have done the first level work. Suppose first level work beyond that work is done. Now I have to get deeper as to like, why is it still happening? Yes, I've done whatever I had to do. Now I will never progress any further than this unless I am able to do deeper manan on what's going on, what's causing this anger to erupt for me to work. And I realized that one of the key reasons, and this is I'm just working on the level 2. I'm pretty sure I have to go down to like several hundred levels before I am able to really cure myself of that. I realized the reason I get upset and angry is because I have too much of rajogun inside of me, which means that I fill up my day with so much. I say yes to so much. And not necessarily that only I say yes. Now that I've started to say, okay, that was the first point that I realized, right? Now that I said, okay, now I'm going to be more careful of what I say yes to. Otherwise, I feel obligated to say yes. I feel pressured into saying yes, or I feel like I must do it. I want to do it, but I want to do too many things without a sense of prioritization. right? So life throws at me hundreds of opportunities and I say yes to everything because everything seems interesting or important or must do, right? So my brain is not able to prioritize and say, boss, like understand the limits of the resources. You have a finite amount of time and you need to figure out what you want to put into your box. I don't do that often enough. And that causes me to get filled up with so much that I have no scope for things, for something like everything has to go chock a block. Like everything has to be like perfect for my day to actually go past properly because it's filled up with so many activities. And if now my son decides to wake up late, or if he throws a tantrum, or if he's like not in a right mood and he does not brush on time, does not get ready on time, I have no time to accommodate that change in his way of being. And then I'm going to get upset because now I have a meeting that starts at this time and you have to be done this, blah, 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 throughout the entire day. I have no space to deal with things that life keeps throwing at me then in the moment because I've not created space. I've not created space in my day and I have definitely not created space in my mind. So I have to learn to say no constantly. And only then, and now that I have become aware of it in last 1 year and I've said, okay, I will be more conscious of saying no because of my prarabdha, because of everything I've been doing in my past and how many things I've been saying yes to. Now, even if I want to say no for last 1 year, I realize I'm not able to say no because other people will fill my day up. Whether it's my in-laws, whether it's my husband, whether it is my child, whether it is my friends, they will fill my day up without telling me, without me saying yes. They will bring in stuff. They will already like say yes on my behalf on several things. And I realize that, oh, now I'm back with like that same hour slot filled with 3 activities. And then I get like, what's going on here? Right. And I will get upset because now I'm not able to manage things. I have too much pressure. Right. So now my job here is now not anger management. My job is now to work on the second layer, which is work on this Rajoguni bhav. And find what are the ways. First of all, say no. And when things happen, as they will happen, how to deal with it? How do I fill myself up in a space where I can be calm? Right? That is now my job. So now my activity for like, oh, I have to control my anger is gone because it will not get cured any longer until I deal with this problem next. The problem of too much rajogun, the problem of too much to do. That is what I have to tackle. Until I create space in my day, in my time, my mind, I will not be able to deal with it. And with that, I'm pretty sure 20 other things will get resolved. So that is the next work I need to do on myself. Right? Yeah, Kakuli. You're on mute. Kakuli, you're on mute.
As I was listening to you, I am actually in such a space. And for the first day today, I'm not in the class also. It's because I'm filled with so many things. As you were saying, I'm like 5 o'clock in the morning, I have to do my japa. Then I have to do my meditation. If Obijit gets up late, the tea time is gone. You know, and it's not coming from a Rajoguni space to say yes. For me, I have reached a stage where I'm kind of telling myself that I'm living because of certain grace I have received. And so everything that comes from the ashram, yes, I will do it. Communication for this on Twitter, I will do it. This I will do. And my day is filled with, I was telling my sister, it's filled with whole day either doing my startup work or I'm doing everything related to the ashram because I'm not able to say no. And it's not because I want to be there and show it. It's because I'm coming from the space that I've got my life back and I need to do it. How do I handle it here? I'm not like, it's not that I want to prove myself. It's just I'm so obligated to every breath. I filled myself in the last 4 months and I'm succumbing so much so that today I just texted Donna, I'm not in the class because my mind is somewhere, okay, I'll have to do this after this, after this. And it's all related to the volunteering I'm doing around the whole day. And I'm getting overwhelmed because I'm not able to say no. How do I put Gita principle out here?
I mean, I think the only thing I would say, Bior, and then Abhinav, will probably add a lot more value. He adds a lot more value to me on the same question every day. Is we shouldn't do anything out of obligation. Okay, and I'll give you an example right now. Today, like the day is crazy, okay? And the number of things we have to do entire November has been extraordinarily crazy for us. We always knew it will be crazy, but it is only becoming crazier by the day, right? And I now have to decide to say no to a few things that we've already said yes to, right? And we had to sit down and really contemplate, what is it that I'm doing out of obligation? What can I say no to? Which I have to, because otherwise it adds nothing. There is no value. There's no satogun left anymore in a particular activity. Okay. And that is very important. You have to go back to tell yourself that you're doing nothing out of obligation. The only things you will do are things out of joy and happiness. And for me, I know that ultimately someday I will come back to exactly the same day, doing all these hundreds of activities in the day, but do it in a space of being present, without being in that constant planning mode, without the agitation in my mind. Today I'm not there. If I'm not there in that space and I can't handle 100 things, I can only handle 10 things while staying in a state of satogun, then I will only do 10 things. It is better to do 10 things with a state of satogun than doing 100 things in a space of rajogun and being upset, angry, anxious, and adding that to the environment around you. That's what I do. Because I get upset, I get conscious, I get anxious. And then in that moment, I will add that to everybody around me. और फिर उसका जो joy है of doing something goes away. And that's the truth. Right? So my job now is to say that, boss, first of all, becoming aware that this is what I'm doing. Then what's the point of doing it? So for me, I can't say for you, Kakoli, you'll have to do Manan Nidhi Dhyasan yourself. But for me, the most important thing is if I can only do 10 things out of the 100 available to me in a space of Satogun, that's what I will do. And do some activity of Naam Jap or whatever I can to help increase my capacity. Only His grace will help me increase my capacity to go from 10 to 11 to 12 to 15. So for me right now, the biggest indicator is if I'm getting into stress, anxiety, anger, if I'm getting into any of those tamoguni feelings, then I know I've crossed my limit and I need to step back. And maybe there are cases where I'm not able to step back any longer because I've already committed myself. Then use this as a lesson for what I should do or should not do in future. Ask myself, how did I end up myself in this situation? What did I do? What could I have done differently? What should I do differently? If I don't contemplate today to find out why I've landed up in this situation, I will never know what I need to do next. And I will again find myself in that situation again and again and again, month after month after month. So either I say no today and get myself back into a Satoguni Bhav, or I definitely spend some time contemplating on what I should not do in future to recreate this space.
So that's not fully accurate. So you can never control your VVGP. So what you have to experience will come one form or the other. So you can learn from a situation, but that you can never control the next VVGP. You can never control the next situation for it to be exactly what you want it to be.
No. But you can definitely control the VVGP internally to say yes or no to certain things, of course.
No, but the learning part is not for controlling the VVGP. The
learning part is to control yourself.
Obligation,
yes or no.
You only have one obligation. Your obligation is to Bhagwanji. He is giving you life.
Mm-hmm.
Have a conversation with Bhagwanji. Why have you given me extra time? And there is literally only one answer. Because He wants you to be with Him permanently. That's the only answer. He thinks you are ready on this path. You have found the right path. He's given you the opportunity to go and merge with Him. Every opportunity of seva that you get, every act that we have to do, you have to filter it with that 4-step process: purpose, bhav, action, and result.
Correct.
Every action that you're taking, can you identify its purpose? If it's obligation because you cannot say no, then that is your learning curve to say no.
Correct.
If somebody has put it on your plate without your asking, Bhagwanji thinks I can do it, and I can do it with the right bhav. What should my bhav be towards this now? Why is he sent this to me? Why does he feel I'm ready? Those are the main two things for you to work upon. The actual act and the result has already happened. As they've said, as we read in chapter 9, all actions, all results have already happened. We are just his nimit. We are just his instruments to actually do it. Our only job is to work on the purpose of why we do something and the bhav with which we do it.
See, end of the day, all of these principles, the way that you will interpret them and the way you will implement them are going to be so contextual, right? The way I'll implement it today in my life would be very different from the way I'll only implement it like a year from now, right? Forget about how I'll implement it versus how Kakuli will implement it, right?
So in your
but I
situation,
think for
Kakuli, it's very important for you to identify can I do this seva with seva bhav? If not, then you're creating more prarabdha for yourself.
Correct. And seva bhav means you being in equanimity and calmness.
And be very mindful and be very vigilant about not adding more prarabdha when you have to do this act.
Correct.
If
you're getting stressed and you're vitiating your atmosphere around you, then that act has only added more to your burden and to your baggage rather than reducing from it. Right? And you'll have to find your own indicators. Like for me now, the indicators are if I'm getting anxious, angry, upset, stressed, and I'm not able to control it inside of me any longer, and it's beginning to spill out of me in my environment, then I know that I have, and this is my own personal journey, right? My own nididhyasana, it doesn't need to apply to you. Then I know I've taken on more than I can. And I have to control it. I have to manage it. I have to talk it out. I have to figure out my own ways of dealing with it. In certain situations, it's possible for me to walk out of something that I've said yes to or walk out of an activity. In certain cases, I'm not able to walk out of the activity any longer. Then I have to deal with it. Then I have to find a way to get back into Satogun. To do it. Ki ab ye to karna hi hai. I don't have a choice in a matter. In certain cases, I have a choice where I'm able to walk out of that and close that activity. Certain cases, I can't. My VVGP is not allowing me to walk out of that situation. Then I have to find another way to get back into Satogun. If I can't, then there is no point in doing that activity. So the first job is to get back into Satogun, calm yourself down, find out, okay, these are the ABCDs that I can do to get back into Satogun, and then do that to get back into Satogun. That's the most important thing. Do everything out of a space of Satogun and calmness and happiness and joy.
So the only way to get back to Satogun is purpose and bhav. What should my bhav be? What is my real purpose here? What does Bhagwanji really want me to do? And what is the bhav with which I can do it? And then if you still feel emotions, then you need to identify what you're attached to. Right? I think Vijay, you've been waiting.
Yeah. Just wanted to give this thing. I can totally understand what you're going through, Kapuli, been there, done that kind of thing. So they may have done prayer meetings and stuff and so on. So you feel more obligated since we had been going through medical cycle and so on. A lot of doctors, medical doctors have this kind of a privilege also, right? They are also to think of it, they are also the agent of God. It's not their action that save us. You will have to put the outcome today for whatever we are living. It is because of the God. So that should be the aspect. All this RBVGP, as Abhinav and Tivina have been pointing out, the rest of the things. There are certain people who will come and go. We don't have to. We can feel obligated, but not necessarily okay. Today I am living because only of that person, this person. That's not correct. That should be that's actually the God's will. Right, so that's otherwise, like mostly the doctors have the godlike feeling because of this reason, a surgeon and so on, and the people typically think, okay, they are the savior or the angel of God kind of thing. So that is one thing. Second one, if once we are out of the situation, and if we being thankful is good. Being returning with some kind of this thing is good. Say for my son, he has gone through the medical thing and recovered and so on. I have picked up services as my this thing. Last month or so, it has been crazy for me. One side it's office related work, the other side is the service. All of that are choking. And ultimately, if I'm not able to spend time with my son in a weekend also, then it doesn't solve the purpose. He survived, he came out, all that kind of thing. I'll have to give dedicated time for him, appropriate time for him, right? Otherwise, like whatever save, and after that, like I'm running behind the services and so on. I'm really not giving necessary attention what I wanted to preserve, right? So that's what I have worked all along for, but I'm not giving enough time for that kind of a situation. So that is what we need to think through. For what reason we have worked, we should appreciate. So in a week, like maybe if I'm giving my Saturday half day or one day, so time slice it. This is what I'm going to take as an additional work beyond whatever I can do. I cannot like keep taking everything that is coming big just because like it is coming for as my this thing, right? I'll have to also allocate appropriate time for the family, for the thing that we value the. So that's kind of like how I've been doing. Just wanted to add it.
Thank you for sharing, Vijay. Yeah, Rituj.
Just one thing with all the conversation happening on learning, just saying no, and on that aspect, what someone told me this, and I think it might be relevant, is about prioritizing the things you have to do in a day. And if there are, say, 10 things also you think you have to do, just choose the things which are not going to be overwhelming for you, but prioritize it. You can start with that. That might be helpful. And so that was one aspect that I thought might help. And the second point I've forgotten now. But this thing of prioritizing is something I tend to do, and makes it easier. And also, yeah, I now realize the second thing, that how we're not indispensable, like in the sense that no one is indispensable. We have to have this feeling that it comes from, we feel that we have so much control. We think that this can't be done without us. We put this unnecessary weight on ourselves. And that I think is also relevant from the discussion which is happening. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What? Equipoised?
Equipoised, a person ordinarily tends to get elated in favorable circumstances and dejected in unfavorable ones. But the mind of a devotee is perfectly equipoised, as both the favorable and unfavorable circumstances are regarded to be dispensation of the merciful Lord. The favorable circumstances cause the devotee to feel grateful to the Lord, and the unfavorable ones are faced with fortitude. Such a devotee is thus completely equipoised.
I think we've talked a lot about this and we just touched upon it now also, blessing in a lesson. We'll talk more about fortitude, but in the later chapters.
Forgiving. The devotee forgives others for their faults and is not at all vindicative. In fact, there is a strong sense of indifference to the faults of others.
So out here, two things. One, when they're mentioning a strong sense of indifference to the fault of others, it doesn't mean indifference as in I don't care. But this is the indifference that comes when you have a deep sense of compassion and empathy. Every mistake a human being has made, no matter how gross or subtle it is a mistake I have made. Osama bin Laden has killed people out of this. I have hurt people in my mind with my thoughts. Somebody has made a mistake, broke the rule while driving. There has been a version of that I have done also. That is when you can tap true forgiveness. and you can feel true compassion, because there is no situation, no action a human being can do that can cause you any sense of grudge or discomfort, because you know you are the same person. You have that exact same limitation. And I can get carried away as easily, and I do, but in a slightly lesser degree, because that's His grace. And He saved me many a times.
And that does not mean that the person does that you're going to. Forgiveness is an act at your mind level. It does not mean that you are going to save the other person from the consequences of their action. That you cannot. Okay. The way nature works is that every action has a consequence, karmafal, attached to it. Correct? You can't save a person, you can't save yourself, you can't save anybody from going through the consequences of their action. People have to reap the consequences of their action. But while they are reaping the consequences of their action, that does not mean that you have to hold grudge against them. Right? So if something has happened, you have done something or somebody else has done something, they have to follow through to accept the consequences of that action. Right? If Vedant has done something that is inappropriate, and he needs to accept the consequences that come with it, and I have to make sure that I have to be gently firm with him to make sure that he reaps the consequences of it, but gently and not out of vindication. Like, I'm not being vindictive towards it, I'm not being aggressive towards him. Gently, lovingly, like, yes, this is something you've done, I have also done it before, every child does this, but that means that you have to go through the consequences to learn why this is inappropriate and why you should not do it again. I'm doing this to make sure that he learns. But if I forgive in the sense of not even letting him experience the consequences of his behavior, then he'll never learn. Okay, then I'm shielding him from the natural process of evolution, a natural process of learning. And then I'm not being a good parent, right? So that's, now you can extend that to every other relationship, every other behavior, everything that you see around you. People have to reap the consequences of their actions. That's the law of nature. You can't shield anyone from it, and you shouldn't. But then that does not mean that you become God and start giving out, dishing out your own this thing, right? And you have to do it lovingly, knowing that ठीक है यार, किया, अब उसका वही भुगत रहा है ना उसको, और भुगतेगा. But then when they are there in that space, then we have to be available to them in a gentle manner.
There's a saying also, what you sow, so shall you reap.
Yeah.
Correct.
Contented, a devotee is always free of covetousness and is ever contented. Intent
means
Acquisitiveness. You are constantly, you see somewhere something, and then you're like, I want this. You see somebody wearing something, I want this. You see somebody driving, living in a house, doing something, experiencing something, you're like, I want that experience, I want that thing. That is covetousness. And covetousness does lead to jealousy when you see others possessing of things or experiencing things that you do not have.
You know, what's really funny, or as an observation, suppose it's my birthday, right? Everyone will ask or talk, Arey, what should I get Abhinav? And everyone will say, Arey, yaar, he has everything. There's no point of giving anything. And we all have had this conversation about all our friends, spouses, kids, everybody. Arey, they already have everything. Don't get anything else. But in our own minds, that covetousness keeps playing. That desires keep playing. And that's only in our minds. The whole world knows we all have enough and we don't need anything else. The game that is being played is in our mind, that I want more.
Intent on yoga with controlled mind. The devotee's mind, senses, and the body are fully controlled and are used only for pursuing a yoga discipline through all the actions. Firm conviction. The devotee is firmly entrenched in the conviction that human life is meant for attaining perfection and has steadfast enthusiasm in this quest.
Okay, what does attaining perfection here mean? Can anyone try? Anyone wants to give a stab? So attaining perfection here certainly does not mean attaining perfection in results. It is definitely not that. We know as long as we are in sansar, nothing is perfect. I cannot be perfect. This body cannot be perfect. Any act that I do cannot be perfect. Nothing in this world can be perfect. Because it is temporary. It is not him. Right? So attaining perfection here is attaining Bhagwanji, attaining self-realization. That is what is mean. So you should have that firm conviction, Kakoli, that I have been given this human life to attain him. That is our only chance. That is our only duty.
Dedication of the mind and intellect. The current of thoughts of a devotee's mind and the determination of the intellect are turned from the objects of the world towards self-realization. Thus the mind and intellect are ever dedicated to the Lord. The Lord holds such a devotee to be very dear to him.
Yeah.
I think what is important here is, now what does it mean in our daily life is all I'll say one sentence there. The current of thoughts of mind and determination of intellect turned from objects of the world towards self-realization. पढ़ने में तो it seems very good, but what does it mean on a day-to-day basis? What should any of us change in our lives for that, right? I think we got an example of this when we met Kumar. We met him just before, I think last week, right? Before Diwali. We met him briefly for 10-15 minutes, just wishing him happy Diwali. And we were talking to him literally on the roadside, right? And an interesting conversation was Vedant's birthdays around Diwali as well. And the amount of effort and time and energy I put into doing up the birthday celebrations is again a part of Rajoguni activity. And as you know, I'm figuring out how I fill up my life with Rajoguni activities, why I do them, and how to reduce them. That's now the big focus of my Nidhi Dhyasan. So I was talking to him about it, and I was telling him how the amount of work that comes from doing all of this. And he left me with one point. He's like, okay, now you're doing all of this activity. Try and think of next year how you can celebrate his birthday without any of these activities, and how can you create an experience that is which has a lot more divinity in it. Okay, so that's the project. Next year's birthday should be different from this year's birthday celebration in such a way that you've reduced significantly your Rajoguni activities, and you have figured out how to connect everything to divine, and how have you elevated Vedant's experience to be more divine, so that he connects his birthday to the Lord and not to the gifts and to the parties and to his friends, right? That's one example, right? So this is the dedication of mind and intellect. अब आपका कहाँ है mind or intellect? And कितनी जल्दी from a sense of like, this is my duty, this is what I should do as a parent, goes so quickly into sansar, and you don't even recognize that it is in sansar, right? You think, yeah, this is duty, this is what you're supposed to do. But then when you start to do Nidhi Dhyasa, you're like, no, this is all a lot of Rajoguni activities. How do I reduce it? Now that's my project, right? One project, and it will teach me so much about every other thing that I do in my life, and how I add my Rajoguni activities and how to reduce it down. So through this project, I would make sure that my mind and intellect are now more and more dedicated to the Lord rather than to the sansar. See, we have to do Nidhi Dhyasan. It's not about just reading. It's about what it means for me on a daily basis. If I'm not implementing it on a daily basis in my everyday life, then there's no point in doing the satsang. And that's the quality of Nidhi Dhyasan that we need to all implement on a daily basis. Okay. It's 11:36.
एक छोटा vexation के ऊपर है 15
Okay, because I want to talk about Nam Jap, Anushఠાન.
Okay, then we should stop.
You want to do just one last one?
No, this will take 7-8 minutes.
Okay. So I think we'll stop this here.
Just to take
Start
it.
Shloka 15, next one. We'll do takeaways now. And after that, I want us to talk about the Nam Jap Anushఠાન, which is starting on November 27th. So let's start with takeaways. Who wants to go first?
I can go first if so. The thing that resonated with me was how the gateways of Udhar through every situation, every situation is a lesson as well as a blessing. And it's a gateway for me to improve myself and to, introspect about me and how every VVGP that I come in touch with is just a mirror. It's a reflection of me. And that was something that I really, I have to be mindful of it. And the bhav, working on the bhav and the purpose behind every action out of the four things that we learned, which was the purpose, action, bhav, and was it result or was it desire? I'm confused. It was result. So it was result. So therefore result. And yeah, and this and yes, finally, when we say attaining perfection, the only thing which is perfect is Bhagwanji, the Lord, and nothing else is perfect. No VVGP is because it's subjected to change, and that was that. So
Perfect. Who goes next?
For me, it's about clearly calling out what kind of attitude that Bhagwanji likes, right? And it cannot be optional. It has to be steadfastness across all the situations that we go through in life. So whether we are choosing for specific people that kind of action, or we are actually implementing across all. So that should be the step forward. So that was my point. Thank you.
Thank you.
My takeaways today is every action we can just to see the purpose and bow, without end result, we surrender to the God, like whatever actions we are doing, which is it's a happy, like it's create the happiness within you, and that is also surrendered to the God. I've learned that in each and every action.
Yeah, I think I have similar takeaway. I think every act, as you guys also pointed out, should be done with the right bhav and purpose. And everything that we do, there should be a lot of joy and love in doing that act, and rather than obligation of doing any of those things. I think all of us are a lot into this Rajoguni aspects where we are like constantly doing things, but experiencing it and enjoying it beautifully, and that is more important. I think then we'll have more better experiences and we'll reach closer to divinity.
One yardstick, and I like what you shared about doing everything out of joy. One yardstick is whether you're feeling light or you're feeling heavy. Is your energy light or heavy? If it's light, that means you're actually operating from the right bhav in Satagun. If you're feeling heavy, then you've now got into Rajagun or Tamagun, so it's time to reevaluate. If in this life we can live light throughout, why become heavy?
Yeah.
Work towards the lightness.
Actually, I have an example of my sister-in-law. When you look at her, you will feel that she's quite lazy. She's not in a lot of action. She's very, she's not Rajoguni, she's not constantly doing things. But the moment you ask her, sit with her, talk to her, the peace, the patience, the love with which she will talk, I feel it's such a good space to be in, that she's not constantly doing things, but whatever she's doing with so much patience and love and peace that it's just those 10 minutes with her gives you a lot of content. So, it's also very important that she is not in that current rut of doing but enjoying it. So it's just a way of everyone's doing. But yeah, we have to learn and we have to try to kind of balance both.
That's great sharing. Great sharing.
Actually, हमारी life में, in the world that we live in, doing things constantly, being busy is considered very
Achieving.
important, and it is
Correct.
directly related to achievement.
Yes.
Right? So the busier you are, the less time you have for doing things. That means more amazing you are, more must you have.
Absolutely.
People like will tend to give you a lot more importance, right? And these are like these are manyatai that are really standing on its head, which we need to detach ourselves from and understand how ridiculous they are and how toxic they are, and
Correct.
how they lead us down the path of hell so easily, but we don't even recognize them. We take them
Yeah.
as gospel truths and we follow them, we want them.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you- I mean,
absolutely.
forget adults. We don't allow kids to be free anymore. They're like, "Arey, yaar, nahi, nahi, he's free on Thursday. Let's add some classes. Arey,
Yeah.
arey, other kids are doing this. You should do this."
पूरा
बस-
day structured कर देंगे उनका, right?
पूरा
School,
week,
then this
Saturday,
class, then
Sunday.
this thing, then this thing.
And they're 5-6-year-old kids. I'm like, let them be enjoy, yaar. Uske baad to they'll have to work eventually, but let them be free.
Yeah, totally.
But that's how we train everyone to get Rajuguni, Rajuguni, Rajuguni. It's a treadmill. It's a rat race.
Yeah. Yeah.
May I go next? Just to continue with that, I have read somewhere it is like, when Smita was saying, and Tuhina was also mentioning, do it with the Satogani Bhav and do it with the joy, do it with the connection with the Lord. Actually, that is when we are givers, giving to the world. Otherwise, we are taking, because we are looking for joy everywhere from Prakriti. So actual giving comes from doing with the joy. That's what I have read somewhere, so I just wanted to share.
Very beautifully put.
I'll go next. So I think, I've been hearing everyone talk, and I think for me, we need to start from the space of, at least I need to start from the space that, I have only one obligation, and that's towards Bhagwan Ji. And I think the moment I'm able to realize that whatever I do, whatever actions, whosoever I'm surrounded with, or the way I behave with others, if I'm able to see, it's at times, it's very easy to say that, see divinity in everyone, but sometimes, especially, in a workspace, there is, no matter how much I try, I will not be able to see divinity in some people. But, but to realize that, and then saying that, all my obligation are towards Bhagwanji, and therefore I will behave, or I will conduct myself in a space where, I'm doing it for him. I think that will help enable me to put the rest of the pieces together. So that has been my biggest learning this class.
Correct.
So first of all, thank you everyone for, like, it's changed my mood a bit. So my biggest learning is that what Tuina and Abhinav said, that everything is for Bhagwanji, and what Sanchita mentioned now. But my problem is that I do everything for the ashram, and for me, that is where Bhagwanji resides. But I am understanding now that I need to learn to say no, so that those activities I do with joy and in Satoguni Bhav is what he will be happy about. And I will do an analysis, as Ritu just said. I will sit and chalk out and see which are the ones which makes me feel lighter. And by next Friday, I'm going to communicate out wherever needed and start moving out of some of those activities. So that's a big takeaway, and I hope I'll be able to do it. I mean, I'll take his name and start doing that communication from next week.
Very nice, very nice.
Yes.
So another thing, I think what you just said, right? You need to meditate on that. For me, Bhagwanji resides in that ashram. That itself negates the last 5-6 chapters that we've been reading. Bhagwanji is everywhere, not in just the ashram. Bhagwanji is in you. Bhagwanji is in your home. Bhagwanji is in your workplace, everywhere. So if you are doing one activity and negating another one, which is your duty, or you're negating the duty to yourself, in all of those things, you're disrespecting Bhagwanji because of some blockage somewhere inside of you, which is causing you to not be able to say no. कहीं पे कोई मान्यता गलत है, या कहीं पे आपकी कोई you have a blockage of energy, or there is a sense of ego coming in somewhere which you're trying to fulfill through something. So you have to ask yourself why you're able to say no. Right? Everybody will have a very different nuanced answer as to why they are able to say no, why they are unable to say no. We are all social beings. We are always seeking some kind of social acceptance. Something happens somewhere. It is all comes back to ego, even though it seems very far. In the beginning, you'll be like, there is no way. And you have these 2,500 different couch reasons, which seem absolutely accurate, just the way we saw Arjun Vishad Yoga. All his things were high moral sounding principles, right? But you have to dig a bit deeper to know what's going on. So Bhagwanji is everywhere. Everything you're doing is in this thing. But end of the day, we all have to stay in a space of equipoise, in a space of equanimity, and peace and joy and happiness to do everything.
And I think we talked about this in the earlier chapter also, that ideal worship mein, ashram and idols are a way to get to Bhagwanji, not the other way around. It is not to trap Bhagwanji in that form.
Yeah, it is our crutch.
Yeah.
It is our reminder, daily reminder.
Correct.
So that then I can go out and take that ashram, take that idol
everywhere
and see it everywhere.
Correct.
Take it everywhere. If we are unable to take it everywhere, then we have restricted. It's become karma kand then for us.
Yeah.
It's no more spiritual.
And then that fuels more Rajoguni.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like how this shloka summarizes everything one should do in their life. Like every point is like very valuable here. But my takeaway here is how they have explained here is like devotee should not have any grudge against someone, and to be friendly regardless of how they are treating you, regardless of how one is treating you. It's not up to me. We have to treat everyone equal. And also when we talked about when Tuhina talked about that, whatever we are feeling, first we have to become aware of the emotion, whether what is happening with us, and only when we acknowledge that we are feeling this, and then we can start working on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No.
Okay, can I go? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing today was all about connecting with yourself and identifying how everything you do in your day is affecting you. Like the yardstick is, if you feel lighter doing it, you're in the right path. If you feel heavy, you need to stop and analyze and get back. It's a cycle, so you have to keep repeating it at various levels, at different levels. That's about it, I guess. That's the takeaway. And of course, forgiveness, forgiving from the space of empathy, but not. But we need to understand that everybody goes through whatever they're going through based on their prarabdha. So everybody is God's children. He doesn't have grandchildren. It's all children. So that way, and you have to just let them go through it with empathy, not having a grudge. That's a takeaway. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the takeaways. Okay, so just want to talk about Namjap Anushthan. So on November 23rd, we will be closing out the current Anushthan that is going on. And then on November 27th, we will start the Namjap Anushthan, okay, which we start every year. So this year we will go from November 27 to I think April 21st. I could be wrong about the last date here, but somewhere around end of April. And we will share the Excel sheet in which I'll request all of you to put in your Namjap counters And also let me or Abhinav know how much you are committing. What is very important here is that we commit to a number that we feel uncomfortable about. Okay. If you stay within your comfort zone, then you're not expanding. Okay. And know that you are not doing it. See, we get scared giving a number because we're dependent on our own sense of self. I'm doing it, right? And I will do it. Can I do it? Can I not do it? I can only do 4. I can only do 6. I can only do 10. I've never been able to do more than 8. I can't, so I will not give more than 8, because what if I can't? The point is, you're not doing it in the first place. This could be your first Anushtan, should be your first Anushtan, where you learn to let go of control, learn to let go of your ego of doership, that I am doing something. See, we are constantly talking about how we have to let go of doership. What does it mean to let go of doership? So start with this Anushtan as a practice point to let go of doership. You're not doing this Anushtan. Bhagwanji is doing it. You only have to fully surrender yourself and tell him that Bhagwanji, sit down in front of Bhagwanji, talk to him and tell him, what are your apprehensions? Why you've been scared of committing a certain number? And then ask him for his guidance, take a number from him, give it out there, however much it may scare you, and then tell him, now I'm taking this based on what you've told me, and you all alone will complete it, not me. And after that, at no point of time, allow your ego to come into play. You do it or you don't do it. Don't allow your ego to come into play. Whatever is happening, Bhagwanji will act through you and will show you something along the way, teach you something along the way that you need to learn through this Anushtan. Whatever it is that you need to learn, something you will learn as long as you are willing to give completely of yourself to the Anushtan and learn to see his miracle through this Anushtan. That's what you need to do. Right? And as we go through this Anushtan, as we learn through it year after year after year, this Anushtan and the learnings from it will seep into other parts of your life through our own Nidhi Dhyasan, through our Antakaran cleansing. As we cleanse ourselves, Nam Jap is the most powerful thing out there to cleanse our Antakaran. And it's only cleansing of our Antakaran that will get us to a place where we will start to find answers within ourselves. Every problem, every question, only Bhagwanji knows exactly what my situation is and what's going on inside of me. External situation, a lot of people can see. Even then, not everybody can see even your external situation completely. Some people who are very close to you might be more aware of your external situation, but nobody other than Bhagwanji knows your internal state of being, what needs to change, what needs to improve upon. So he will only give you answers for every problem that you face in your life. And that can only happen when our Antakaran is cleansed enough for us to be able to allow his light to shine through, for us to be able to listen to his voice rather than the voice of the sansar. And Nam Jap is the most powerful tool out there to help us get to that state. Right? And again, Nam Jap will not lead us to realization. Nam Jap, but Nam Jap will help cleanse us up so that the knowledge can dawn on us. And only then when that knowledge dawns on us is when we become one with God. Yeah. So after this class, Abhinav or me will share a link with you all.
I think we already shared.
Have you already shared?
I thought you did.
So we'll see if we've not, even if we've shared, not shared, we'll share it. But please use this opportunity to commit yourself to Nam Jap. Think of where you were last year. I want to see a significantly bigger number from where you were last year. That will show you how far along you are on your journey. You have to get to a stage where ultimately you should be able to do at least 16 malas a day. At least 16 malas a day. That's what Shalini Didi keeps asking us to do. And that would be my request to you as well. Get to at least 16 malas a day. Okay.
Tuhina, I just want to say that, I think this negates the the whole discussion, right? That you should not do things which out of love and joy, right? Rather than like, things which are making you uncomfortable. Because 16, I mean, basis my own personal experience, 2 to 3 years what I can do comfortably with a lot of love and time and sitting down. But moment I do try to achieve more than that, I'm in a very uncomfortable zone where I am like feeling restless. And I also want to be, and generally want to be in that state where I undercommit but overperform rather than to be on the other side. So I'm just trying to figure this out, that by overcommitting here and not doing it, it is only in my mind, I'm just talking about myself, will lead to a lot of restlessness, uh, and it's against whatever we've been talking so far, right, for the day.
Two things, right? Now, as I said, there are, and in Gita, you'll always find principles that seemingly feel like they are opposites to each other. And it's only a cleansing of antakaran that will allow us to see what is the distinction and how to apply. Now, in this particular case, I want to not overcommit because I want to give something and then overperform, right? Now, that's a play of ego. That's one thing that we need to let go. It is not Smita who's performing. And Smita doesn't have to show this to anybody, right? If it causes anxiety in you, then you need to revisit like what is causing that anxiety? Who are you performing for that creates that anxiety? What would happen if you don't do what you committed yourself to do? What's going on here? End of the day, the Naam Jap here that you say you will do, if it does not get done, what is the impact of it for yourself or for others around you? Right? It's an invitation for you to revisit this conversation. And again, now this is also a reflection of some of the limitations we place on ourselves. Okay, it's an invitation for you to start exploring that. For example, in your mind, Naam Jap means I have to sit down in one place, lovingly pick up my counter or this thing, and I want to, in complete peace, do this Naam Jap. What you have done in that moment is, first of all, you created those fences. Nobody else created those fences for you. And you create those similar fences for yourself everywhere else in your life. And you take them to be gospels, gospel truth. This is the limitation within which I have to operate in this situation. That's not the truth. Naam Jap is not supposed to be done in sitting in just one place, because then you're restricting your Naam Jap to that one little space of your life. You're supposed to do Naam Jap throughout the day. That's the purpose. And there is no way you can take on a large number by sitting in one place, because you have a lot of other duties. The moment you take on a larger number, that means you're forced to now take Naam Jap out of just sitting in one place to start doing it throughout the day. And when you start to take Bhagwanji's Naam, when you're doing your everyday activities on the side, you will start to see what's going on in your mind on a daily basis. You will become a lot more present. You'll start to see what goes on in your mind and what kind of bhav you are doing various activities with. You will start to empty your mind of a lot of clutter and filling it up with Naam Jap. You will start to see, you will throw massive light on your daily activities and your own state of being through that entire day. And that's the whole purpose of Naam Jap. That's how Bhagwanji is entering your life now on a daily basis. Hai na? So, and then this activity will start to tell you about how you are being in other areas of your life, to fill it up with Bhagwanji eventually, to let go of a lot of your limitations. Now, you don't have to go from 2 to 16 immediately, right? But going from 2 to 3 to 5, you will start to see, boss, what is causing me anxiety? Why? What am I anxious about? What will people think of me? Somewhere there is that whole factor you will start to dismantle. And then you will dismantle these limitations of, I want to do Naam Jap only in a particular manner. It again leads back to your likes and dislikes. I like to do it this way, so I want to do it in this way. Rag dvesh aa gaya aapka. नाम जप के लिए भी राग द्वेष आ गया. अगर नाम जप के लिए भी राग द्वेष है, तो आप सोचो राग द्वेष कितना और persistent है हमारी बाकी लाइफ में. So you see, this Anushthan, through its one little activity, will cause you to learn a lot about our own selves. Right? And that is the invitation here. So do something and then let go of that doership. You are not doing it. Somebody else is doing it. Ab fir wo ho ya na ho. In both cases, it will teach you something. नहीं हुआ, आपने 5 commit किया, 6 commit किया, 10 commit किया. You're only doing 4, 5, 6. Every day that you're doing 4, 5, 6, it will show up something for you. And that itself is a big win for you. That's a big win for you. You will learn something along the way. And someday you will actually do 10 and you will ask yourself, what did I do differently today? How did I end up doing 10? That will teach you something. Right? Make sense? So the goal is not just कि मुझे वो number hit करना है, but then it becomes a rajoguni activity. आप किस भाव से वो number hit कर रहे हो या नहीं hit कर रहे हो? That bhav is more important than the actual action. When you have the bhav कि मुझे करना है, but satoguni bhav में ही रहकर करना है, you will learn something along the way. Make sense? It is not a goal of a particular number. It is the journey that is more important. Yeah, Ritesh.
Just one thing, I've already pledged certain malas in the other class. So if that's fine, like last time it was a similar thing. So
Yeah, that's fine.
that's all right. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So
Thank
it
you.
doesn't matter where you commit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Please share. Perfect. So look forward to receiving your Namjap Malas. Remember, it is not about a number. I've given you a number from what Shalini Didi has told us. That's probably a goal you can work towards. It's about what you are doing for yourself, a better version of ourselves. That's all that we are working towards and learning along the way. Don't make it a Rajoguni activity of a certain goal hitting. But if your mind is a Rajoguni mind, which all of us are, we tend to work with goals, then might as well give yourself this goal than something else, right? So you can look at it that way, but don't allow yourself to get stressed if a certain stretch goal is not being achieved, right? Even that is teaching you something. If whatever you're feeling, like I said, everything is a portal of access. It's a portal of access to the Lord, if we use it that way. If we are not able to achieve it, if you are feeling something, if we are able to achieve it, even then we are feeling something. Every one of them, whatever you want to hold on to, whatever your awareness allows you to catch on to, will become your portal of access to Bhagwanji through Nidhi Dhyasan, through meditation, through questioning. Make sense? Perfect. So we'll do closing shlokas.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मार् अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ ॐ ॐ